Mr. Abbas, how are you?
Good, Alhamdulillah, all well.
Good to see you again.
Yes.
How are
Nice
you
seeing you.
after visiting the Middle East and Saudi and Riyadh?
Yes, I'm waiting for the next year or this year, to be honest. Yes.
I hope you enjoy your stay in Saudi.
Absolutely.
Alhamdulillah. How's the friends and family in Australia?
All good, all good. Yeah, it's a summer time here, so enjoying the nice sunny weather.
That's great. Yeah, what the temperature now?
Today it's fine. It's around 26 degrees. But last few days we had around 30, 29, 30 degrees, 32 degrees. It's hot, 32 degrees.
Yeah, so we're cooler than you.
Not like Saudi, 50, 55 degrees.
Yes. Yes, great to see you again, and would like to thank you for accepting to joining us and sharing your great knowledge to the Saudi Aramco Cybersecurity Society. And we have great interest in the Zero Trust, and I believe you are one of the key people that could contribute and could also enlighten the topic and how we can go forward in that area. We are a number of research, and if you are also joining us in this research and how to advance in these topics, especially the risk score and how to calculate it accurately, and hopefully that we can do some great contribution with the collaboration with you.
I did have a couple of students who are doing the research reach out to me. We had a session as well, 1 hour presentation along with them to showcase more on the dynamic trust engine, which we will touch upon a little bit today as well. So yeah, I hope they enjoyed it.
That's great. The audience for today, we have diversity. We have from the university, we have faculty members, we have students from outside the university. We also have interest from different institutions and also private companies. We have also specialists from different groups, cybersecurity. They're joining us. So hopefully that will also add great knowledge and great value to focus more on the Zero Trust, and that's what we also aim by having such seminars to put some directions where to go for the future, inshallah.
Absolutely. No. Look forward to interact with the people who are joining today.
Yes, thanks. And I believe Professor Nasr Mullah, if you know him, he will be the moderator for this session.
Yes.
I'd like to thank Professor Nasr for organizing and helping in this session. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you. Right. So I think we are all set now to start the session. I can see a number of participants coming, and number will grow. We have 170 plus participants so far have registered. Hopefully they will join us as the time progresses.
Sure.
Hello everyone.
Record it so they can join it later.
Correct. Yeah. So let me welcome you all. Thank you very much for coming to this session. It's my great pleasure to welcome you all in the 13th seminar arranged by Saudi Aramco Cybersecurity Chair at the College of Computer Science and Information Technology, Imam Abdurrahman bin Faisal University. The title for this seminar is Zero Trust Journey Across the Digital Estate. And the speaker will discuss the key points of how digitizing business processes can increase security risk and how Zero Trust can help us protecting against such security risks. My name is Professor Nasr Mullah, and I'll be moderating this session. We have divided this session into two parts. The first part, speaker will present the work in 40-45 minutes session, followed by a short Q&A session of 10 to 15 minutes. Those who are interested in asking questions, please type your questions in the chat window, and I will try to read it out to the speaker in the Q&A session. If you want to ask live questions, we will be glad to give you an opportunity, and we can unmute your mics at the end of the session and during the Q&A session. Now, let me introduce the guest speaker at state level, Professor Abbas Kudrati, who is a long-time cybersecurity practitioner. Abbas Kudrati is Microsoft Asia's lead chief cybersecurity advisor for security solutions area. In addition to his work at Microsoft, he serves as an executive advisor to La Trobe University, HI Trust Asia, EC Council Asia, and several security and technology startups. He supports the broader security community through his work with ISACA chapter and students mentorship. Professor Abbas Kudrati is also the author of best-selling books such as Threat Hunting in the Cloud, Zero Trust Journey Across the Digital Estate, and Managing Risk and Digital Transformation. Abbas Kudrati is also a part-time professor of practice with La Trobe University and a keynote speaker on Zero Trust, cybersecurity, cloud security, risk, and compliance. With this, now I invite Professor Abbas Kudrati to take it from here, please. Professor, please.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum and sabal khair, everyone. Thank you for inviting me today. Dr. Abdullah, Dr. Nasrul, thanks for this opportunity to share my insight and my work on a zero trust topic, which is a very timely topic these days. Everyone is talking about zero trust, right? So I spent almost 1.5 years reading about various things on zero trust. I really got passionate about this topic, and I thought whatever knowledge I gathered, it qualifies to convert it into a nice book so people can learn from my expertise and my research, which I did in that particular space. So as Dr. Nasra was explaining, I have written a couple of books on various topics, from threat hunting to zero trust to managing risk. And my most recent research I'm working on is about how and what you can do in a cybersecurity mesh architecture. So if any of you are PhD students and thinking of doing a PhD, apart from zero trust, this is also a great topic. Maybe in future, I would come and again share my insight, what I'm doing on a cybersecurity mesh architecture, which is a new concept created by Gartner. So something to look forward in the future part, but I thought I'll share with you that zero trust is there. It's moving forward, but there are new topics are also being discussed, such as the mesh architecture, which we will talk about maybe in the future. So I ended up writing almost 240 pages on zero trust, covering about the various history, how zero trust started, how it is helping the business model, creating my own maturity assessment tool, which I will highlight in today at a high level. And of course, we can discuss it more as required. But why all of a sudden zero trust has picked up interest among everyone? We all know before COVID time and before pandemic started, everyone used to go to office and universities to work, right? Nobody was working from home, maybe unless they are sick or something, and they can't do much even if they're working from home. So now that after pandemic, all of a sudden we have seen a huge increase in a hybrid workforce. That means people still want to continue working from home, which created a huge risk for IT and security people. How I'm going to allow to work my employee to work from home, as well as maintain the security and the privacy concern which they have. For example, you're working from home, you only have a home Wi-Fi, which your company doesn't help you secure it. You secure it in a way with a username and password, which increases a huge risk. Maybe you haven't secured it. Maybe you have a laptop which is being used by a number of other people at your home, your kids, your family member, and whatnot, right? So it increases the risk for IT and security. And all of a sudden, we have also seen a lot of threat actors, such as hackers and nation-state attack actors, rather than targeting the companies, typical company targeting firewall and website, now they are targeting individuals because they know that employee has gone home. They are working from home. They are no longer in the company building or using the firewall to protect the company's environment. They are working from home. So it is much easier to target all the identities of these individuals. So yes, companies are targeted, but more than company, we are seeing individuals are getting targeted through an identity-based attack, such as phishing emails and DDoS and social engineering techniques and sending ransomware or a malware through emails and phishing and whatnot. So we have seen a whole new set of ransomwares and malware and phishing technique being all of a sudden increased because of people working from home, right? We also saw in last few years during pandemic time, organizations have started adopting more and more cloud technology because data center is no longer able to help them. They are now working from home, so they want the company's applications, SharePoint, email, everything to be hosted on internet so they can work from anywhere, including any devices, right? So we have seen a huge increase of such multi-cloud, multi-platform, and all those apps which are being hosted on the internet, which increase again a challenge, how I'm going to secure it as a security professional. So there are many such things we are seeing in the last 2 years or more. Some examples I have it. Let me just, for example, 81% have begun hybrid, 55% reporting phishing attack in the last 18 months, almost 1,000% increase in a ransomware between 2020 and 2021, and the number is constantly increasing. We are seeing almost 58 days it takes for individual to respond to any kind of breach, which are working especially from the remote. And I was looking at the IBM data breach report of 2021, which was released somewhere in last year, mid last year. If you look at the middle number, 1.76 million is the cost difference in a breach where mature zero trust was deployed versus no zero trust, right? And I have a few more research. I mean, I can go on talking about where are the people investing. Top investment in identity space, especially implementing zero trust. Top investment, again, from the concern point of view, investment also is zero trust, but also concern in implementing zero trust as well, right? So before I jumped into zero trust definition, what is this all about zero trust, right? Let's understand when we talk to people, we find 2 or 3 different kind of people. One set of people who will say, or the organization will say, I like the identity-centric approach of a zero trust. Then we have other set of frameworks, standards, and technologies and organization who will say, we want to view zero trust as a network concept rather than an identity view. We want a network view. Some set of people say, oh, it's a product. I'm just going to buy a box from the market, put a shiny box in my network, and I can call it a zero trust, right? So there are various different thought processes around people talking about. But if you ask me which is the right way of doing zero trust identity or network, I will touch upon that and share you my insight, and we can have a discussion why one approach is better than other one, or is it only one approach good, or 2 approaches good, or can I use mix of both, right? We will discuss that shortly. Another one, let's look at from the implementation point of view. If you notice Australia and New Zealand as compared to US, of course, US is leading in terms of almost 79% of the companies are focusing on implementing zero trust as compared to 71% in Australia and New Zealand. I don't have an Asia Pac number, but this is from the top markets such as US, Germany, Japan, and Australia and New Zealand. So you can see how many organizations have fully implemented or in progress. Now, if you ask me, can you ever implement zero trust fully? Because this is a research from Microsoft, which says there are 28% of the organization in Australia and New Zealand who have fully implemented. Well, in my honest opinion, even though I work from Microsoft, fully implementation of a zero trust is not possible. This is an ongoing journey, ongoing project. You will never be able to finish it. You have to take a pause. Yes, you have defined the scope. You have done some activities according to your risk posture, and you take a pause. So maybe in that context, yes, I have done so far. But if any threat changes, any new technology changes, any new merger acquisition happens in my organization, again, I have to kickstart my zero trust project. So it's an ongoing thing. You can never, ever finish it, right? So what is zero trust? Let's jump. I have, as you can see, I have almost 356 slides. I'm not going to present everything to you, but based on your interest, we can jump around and select the topic, right? So let's look at some of the industry definitions of a zero trust, right? Coming up, yeah. So zero trust is nothing but a set of principles and an approach or a process which you have to apply in your organization to achieve a good state in your environment. For example, Microsoft defines zero trust with 3 set of principles. There are other organizations who has 5 principles. There are 7 principles. I will touch upon some of them, but if you consolidate them, it will come at the end of the day 3 principles. So rather than assuming that everything behind the corporate firewall in my company is safe, zero trust makes you believe that you are working in an open environment. Either it could be a Starbucks, from your home network, from anywhere. And you have to explicitly verify every attempt. Attempt could be from your device or identity, attempt to any service which are being accessed in your company, could be network, could be application, could be IoT device, could be internal network, external network. It has to be explicitly always verified. So first principle, always verify, never trust. So explicitly validate every user, device, application using the telemetry of information based on a risk score, and then you give an access. I will touch upon that very soon. The second principle you have to follow is a least privilege. That means you have to provide access based on need to know, need to do basis, or just in time, just enough access. Why we have to focus on this principle? Because if you have identities, if you have an employee who has a privileged identity, and if that identity is compromised while they are working from home, they will have your keys to the kingdom. They will have the admin right in your environment. They can create the account, they can exfiltrate the data, and they can damage the environment and do a lot of harm, right? That's why removing administrator from your organization becomes very, very important. And trust me, this is the most difficult principle out of these 3. Because imagine you have out of 1,000 employees, if you have 100 employee who has an admin account, if you ask them, I'm going to take away your admin rights from your local machine, what they're going to do? They will go into a revolt. They will start fighting that. How can you take my admin right? How I'm going to do the work? But you have to think through and apply that logic, how I'm going to remove the explicit privilege and give them access based on just in time, just enough access. So these are the concepts you will hear in a zero trust, that you're not going to get access every time. Only when you have to do the task, you will automatically grant it admin privilege for the duration of the work you want to do it. And I'm going to remove the automatically using the system. I'm going to remove your access right once again, once the job is done or a particular job is required, only for that part, right? The third important principle is an assume breach. Now, what is assume breach? In a typical network environment, we used to create a layered defensive approach, the onion skin methodology, the defense in depth approach. We have more than one set of control to protect our environment. We have layer of defensive, firewall, IPS, IDS, whatnot. Now, in case of an assume breach, you are now assuming that the attacker is already in my company, either partially or fully. So you design your network in a way so that it can have a minimum damage or no damage. You have to design it accordingly. And there are many things which you can do, especially in the network component when you are doing the zero trust for reducing the impact of any kind of attack or a breach in your environment, right? So far, is this 3 principle clear? You can put an emoji thumbs up or type it on the chat, then I move forward next. It is very important for you to understand these 3 principles. Okay, good. I see a couple of yes, so it's all well. Okay, so as I said, these are Microsoft-based 3 principles. If you look at NSA, National Security Agency of America, they have also closely adapted the same 3 principles: zero, least privilege, assume breach, verify explicitly, right? They also talk about the same thing. If you look at another architecture, which is from NIST, they also talk about similar kind of a concept where you have the device identity and whatnot and having a policy in the center. Similarly, if you look at Open Group, they also have a similar model of defining an access control mechanism for identity and network using a policy enforcement engine. So we'll touch upon the policy enforcement engine, but first understand these 3 concepts: input, process, output. You all are IT graduates or learning security, right? So you all know what is input, output, input, process, output, right? So in case of a zero trust access control strategy, which is one of the most important concepts in a zero trust, you need to rely on three things. First, input is your signal. That means you have to collect signals from various entities such as device and user. And you have to collect signals such as, is my device managed or unmanaged? Is my device in compliance with the security of my company? Is the device which I'm using, handheld or laptop or mobile phone, have any kind of risk? All these signals you need to collect. Similarly, from the identity point of view, human or non-human, you need to collect signals such as multi-factor authentication or not, a particular user who is trying to access, a particular user who is trying to access based on behavior. Is he logging in from Saudi Arabia or from Australia? Is he logging during 9 to 5 time or logging in the middle of the night? So many such kind of signals you collect. So based on the signal, based on the input you collect, you should have a decision-making engine, which is nothing but a policy engine in our case. This policy engine, as explained by Open Group, policy enforcement engine, or as explained by NIST, which is called policy enforcement point, or all explained by Microsoft, they call it conditional access engine. You have to have that engine which will make a decision. You can also call this a decision-making engine. Based on the signal which you have collected in the input phase, this decision-making engine will talk about, yes, everything is good, give them full access. No, all of a sudden person is logging from Australia, it's not good, let's ask him or her for a second factor authentication. So increase the assurance, Or if you see somebody trying to log in from Russia, it's a bad IP address, restrict it and delete it and block it. Or if I find a particular ransomware on a particular device which is trying to log in, I want to remediate it before allowing to access. So all this automation is done by a policy enforcement engine in the center, which is my input process. Output is my enforcement part. So based on the input and process, based on the signal and decision, then I will apply my policy across the estate of my digital estate. Could be my modern application, could be my SaaS application, could be my legacy application, which is running on-premise. Also that can be protected. Also that can be part of your zero trust, right? So signal, decision, enforcement, input, process, output has to be applied in that space. Now that cut across everything. Identity, device, application, infra, networking data, it cut across the entire digital estate, not only for the application, not only for the network, not only for the data, right? Pause here. Any questions so far? Good. Okay. No question, then we move on to the next concept. Now, the number one question which I get is, how do I start this zero trust project? Any of you have that question? That's a very, very typical. Okay, I understood the concept. It is good. We need to do it. How do I start the zero trust? Is it something technology, buy a box and do it? No, I explained you the principle, right? So I will give you 3 simple steps to start zero trust project, and we'll go deeper into the various architecture. First of all, if you have to decide, I want to implement zero trust, you need to find out who these users are, which application they are trying to access. How are they doing it today? Why are they doing it that way? Some simple example is, I have a set of finance user from my finance department. They are trying to access my Dynamic 365, which is hosted on premises, and they use it always RSA token or a second factor authentication for doing it because it's a very secure one and blah, blah. Now, if you have to move this finance organization to work from home, first of all, you need to find those set of users. Then you may have to move that dynamic application from on-prem to the cloud. And then you have to create the access control in terms of when they're going to access, how they're going to access, do they need a second factor authentication? Do I have a monitoring system in place? What are the various conditions required for accessing that? What control? So once you ask this basic question, you need to create a blueprint. Then, okay, this is the set of users. Let's start with this set of users because this is where I have the most risky, or this is the set of users which are working from home and they are very demanding. So let's tackle them first. Don't do a big bang approach. Go with a simple approach. So first set of users, first set of applications and whatnot. Then you have to decide on terms of conditions. What are the roles, group they are part of, the device which they are using, what level of security you want on the device. Do you want all of them device to be 100% up to date from Windows 11? Do you want them to have an antivirus, anti-malware always up to date? All those things has to be decided. Or you define the baseline that, okay, I'm okay if the patches are not updated for 1 week. But if the patches are not updated for the 2 weeks, I want to block them. Or the antivirus system they have or anti-malware they're using, if it is 1 level below outdated, I'm okay. But if it is 2 level below, I want to block them. So those has to be decided, including the location, right? Are they all logging from Saudi Arabia? Do you want to allow any other country? So you can block the geolocation in your systems and no other country should be able to log in my network because I know all my employees are 100% within Saudi Arabia, So those kind of conditions you need to define and create in your blueprint. And then if then else statement, input process output, you decide whether what am I going to do it. If I have a virus, do I want to allow them or do I want to block them, or they can only do read-only access? I'll give you an example of that. Or if they are working from India or Dubai, for example, I want them to have a second factor authentication while accessing it because all of a sudden the geolocation is changed. So this condition has to be applied. I will show you how it needs to be done. So if you put it in a nice architecture diagram, you have your identity, human, non-human. You have your endpoint, corporate or personal. For identity, you want a strong authentication. For endpoint, you want a device compliant. And then you have your policy optimization, policy governance, policy implementation, evaluation, enforcement. All those parts are required. And based on that, you allow them to access either through public or a private network for your data, app, and infrastructure. Let's look at this example. Let me see if this works in the animation. You will be able to better see it. No. Yeah. So you have your conditions, then you have your policy engine, which has a built-in policy defined, or you can bring your own policy. There is a machine learning algorithm which will define the risk score. If the user password is compromised and they try to access, their risk score will increase to 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. That means high risk. The arrow will go to the red. And based on that, it will create, allow access, limit access, block access, or second factor, or password reset. All those things, mechanism can be applied, or the control can be applied before giving them access to public, your corporate, or your on-premise application. So this is how the whole thing works. So this architecture design is mostly very Microsoft centric. So I want to qualify that. In our case, in case of Microsoft, this is the main heart of the system, which is a conditional access engine, which is on Azure Active Directory, which is nothing but a dynamic risk-based engine, which based on the risk collected from users and device, the policies are already built in, more than 100 plus policies there, plus you can bring your own policy based on the condition you want to allow, and this will take a call whether what you want to do it. What you want to do it in case of second factor, in case of leak credential MFA, or you want to activate the VPN, or you want to use a cloud app security broker or whatnot, allow or lower the access, monitor whatnot you need to do it. Everything on the right-hand side, what you see, you're trying to access, is determined based on the conditional access policy engine, which we have here. Here's another view. This is my policy access engine, right? Okay. First, pause here. Now, that's a concept, that's a policy engine. I do have some questions which was received in advance, and I want to move forward in my presentation by answering those questions, because otherwise we will not have enough time to tackle that, right? Is it okay if we do it that way, so that answers are also being taken care, as well as I can show you explicitly those slides as well? Make sense?
Yeah, I think maybe I can type you the question, or you can type the questions.
I have the question in front of me. the one which you sent me.
Maybe you can just type in the chat window and then you can answer those questions one by one. I think it's fine.
Okay, I will copy paste which question I'm answering. So I received this question first. Let me go everyone. So I was asked that it is being said that implicit trust and continuous validation at every stage is a challenge for zero trust architecture. What is your take on it, right? So as I was explaining, here you go. As I was explaining, you have to have a conditional or a policy engine as defined by various standards such as NIST, Open Group, CSA, and Microsoft. So this is your central hub. This is where you have to use it. Now, how good is your policy engine? This is the technical part as well as procedural part as well. So for example, in case of Microsoft, they provide you Azure AD Condition Access Engine, which is your continuous validation engine as a part of it. But if you don't want to invest in Microsoft, there are other technology providers who also sell you, or who also which also you can implement in your environment, which can take care of the if then else statement, input, process, output. The process part is where your policy-based segmentation, policy-based engine is required. However, the challenge in that case is, depending upon what kind of technology investment you have with which particular vendor, you may end up a lot of time and effort in integration part. Because if, for example, I have a slide on that, possible. Yeah, let's look at this. For example, you are using AirWatch or JamF as one of the mobile application management or mobile device management software in your environment. Now, if that particular product is not able to identify the device compliant and then share that particular signal with your policy engine, you won't be able to decide whether the device is risky or not. So this is where a platform approach comes into play. So if there is a partnership agreement, for example, in this example, AirWatch and JamF, they can manage your device. But if the device is in compliance with your security patches and policy, for that, you may have to use Microsoft Intune, which is very well connected and integrated very well natively with Azure AD Condition Access, right? And I will show you an example on that. Let me jump and show you the example, what I'm talking about, right? So, where is it? Yep. So, for example, you require your device to be managed and also in compliant before you want to access any of your corporate resources, right? So you can go to any website or any tool such as Google, whatever is your SaaS application you're trying to access. You go to that website, you enter your username and password provided by the company. And after that, it will ask you for a second factor authentication because you have set up the policy in your condition access that it has to be two-factor authentication. After the second factor authentication is approved on your phone or your watch, then it will immediately prompt you a message that the device which you are using, the laptop or the desktop what you're using, is not a managed device. So you have to enroll them using MDM, and only then you will be able to access those companies' website or company's application. So these kind of things are shared by Intune, which is a mobile device management, mobile compliance management, with your Azure Active Directory, which can check the signal the device is not enrolled, so I'm not going to allow them to access according to my zero trust policy, right? If you want to see one more example, okay, this is an example from DLP point of view, right? I want to have an auditing session on a non-managed device and don't want to allow them to download from any app which are non-approved ones. So I go to my company application, I enter username, I enter the password, I approve the sign-in, and it will say that since you are using a non-managed device, I'm going to monitor. I want you to work, right? So you are able to work, but I want to monitor what you are doing it. And as soon as you do it, yeah, you can go to Google Drive, OneDrive, Dropbox, whatever is allowed by your company. You can preview it and open the PowerPoint file. But as soon as you try to download that file on your laptop, which is a non-managed laptop, it will say download is blocked. So you're not able to download that particular file. And you can see it in your backend application, what you're using, such as Cloud App Proxy, Cloud Application Broker. It can check whether which machine, which user, which file you're trying to download, and you can block all that. So the question Ali is asking me, who determines and evaluate whether organization is fully or partially using Zero Trust? Very, very, very good question, right? Whose project is it? Is it an IT project? Is it a business project? Is it a security project? Well, Zero Trust is a business project. You have to bring everyone together and decide whether, first of all, do we really need to do Zero Trust project in our company? Is it really relevant? Just don't do it because there are books written, there are research done, there are people like me who is saying do Zero Trust. No, you have to determine whether is Zero Trust going to give you the benefits which I'm talking about today. That's the first question. If they say, yeah, definitely we have certain things which Zero Trust can help because we have employee working from home. So let's decide which part of Zero Trust is very, very important for you. So there is a concept which I'm going to answer you in a short while in terms of maturity. What is my current state? If I have to look at, if I have to measure, right? Let's go here. Let's go answer that question because it's a very, very important question. Let's go and look at it from maturity point of view, right? Which will help answer another question which I was sent. Don't worry about the time, right? I have time, so I'm not going to rush in finishing in 1 hour. I can stay longer as required. It's already evening for me. Nobody is waiting, right? So I have to first identify my current state assessment. So based on my assessment, then I will define what needs to be done and then identify my current people, process, technology, architecture gap, and then do the project planning. So there are many methods for doing the determination whether my organization is fully or partially on a Zero Trust security. So there are many maturity models, which is one of the questions I was already sent before. According to Microsoft, they define traditional, advanced, and optimal, and they have a set of questions and the parameters based on which they say that if you have A, B, C, D, then you are a traditional in Zero Trust. And you define whether do I need to go advanced or can I go to optimal? How many years or months is going to take from traditional to optimal, right? There are step-by-step approach you need to take it, right? For example, CISA, they also have their maturity model. Identity, device, network. They also call it optimal, advanced, traditional, very similar to Zero Trust. Then there is a Forrester model. Forrester is the one who created the Zero Trust architecture. They have their own model as well. You need to buy the model. They don't publicly sell it. If you do their training or you pay them a couple of $1,000, then they give you their model. Or you use companies like Palo Alto, which has a very network-centric approach of doing Zero Trust assessment. They give you a scoring, whether you are on a scale of 25, you are 5, 10, 15, 20. Depending upon that, you are initial, repeatable, defined, manager, optimized. Or you use a model which I created, which is the vendor neutral, in which I provide basic, intermediate, and mature, 3 level. And I have defined the parameters in that. So the tool is available if you have a copy of book. Otherwise, I can give you a copy of my tool, Excel-based tool, which looks like this, which answers a series of questions, and you can get a chart in terms of where you are, what is your current maturity, right? So Ibrahim, that's as a company, we have to define whether how much I want to invest and implement in my Zero Trust architecture. There are multiple schools of thought, right? So I have my own way of tackling. If somebody asks me, I want to do a Zero Trust, I like to take a risk-based approach. I would say, let's look at what are the top 5 risks you have for the company. We can take a fictitious scenario. Let's take university, right? Latrobe University. So what are the top 5 risks to Latrobe University? And so my university is doing the risk assessment. They have the risk methodology. They are doing the threat metrics. They have the pen test, VAPT report, and whatnot. So I will pick up the top 5 risks, which is concerned by the security, IT, and business. They will say that Abbas, these are the top 5 cyber threat I have, and I have to mitigate that. How can Zero Trust help me in mitigating? For example, number 1 threat is a ransomware. So can I mitigate ransomware threat using Zero Trust? Yes, you can. So first of all, I need to identify which area of my Zero Trust architecture, I talked about device, identity, application, data, network, visibility, is immature. So based on the assessment I have done, doesn't matter. I can use Microsoft assessment tool. I can use my own assessment tool. I need some sort of assessment to be done so I can know that, okay, which area I need to focus on. Because then you look at, okay, ransomware. How does ransomware target in my company? Phishing. Phishing is for identity, right? If identities are not secure, I may get phished. And if I get a phishing email, if I click it, my identity can compromise. So for that, I need to have a second factor authentication, MFA. So I need to invest on MFA. Do I have an MFA? Yes. So I don't need to worry about identity. My score is good. I'm intermediate. But I need to have a proper monitoring, or I need to focus on privilege identity, right? So I need to focus on removing all the administrator. What can I do for that? So I need to think about a solution, process, technology, people, process, technology. I may have to change a little bit in that space to improve my maturity on that. Second, ransomware also targets my device. Do I have a good EDR, endpoint detection remediation system on my laptop, which can block and remediate and protect and detect and report to me in case any malware or ransomware is identified in my environment, right? So I need to make an investment there. So that way, my approach is I will look at the top threat. I will look at the maturity where the threat can be targeted or compromised. And based on that, I will start my Zero Trust project to tackle that particular risk first and then move to the next area. Long answer, but I hope you got it where you need to focus on, right? Next question I was asked, what are the trust broker in Zero Trust architecture? I already explained you, right? Trust broker is a conditional access engine in case of Microsoft. In case of Zscaler, they have their own Zero Trust engine. In case of Palo Alto, they use a network segmentation or a SASE approach. In case of a Netscope, they also follow a SASE approach, which is a secure access service edge concept, one of the sub-component, or you can say the brother of Zero Trust approach, right? Maybe some other time we can talk about that. So yeah, those are the trust broker, which will define if then else input, process, output, process. Next one question I had was, in your book, Zero Trust Across Journey, you have highlighted Zero Trust Maturity Implementation. Yeah. So I explained you just now the different models of a Zero Trust. Which model is good or which model is bad? It's a completely your call. These are the various question answer which can trigger you to identify a gap into part one of the area in a Zero Trust. The area could be identities, endpoint, application, workload, data, network, infra, visibility, analytics, automation, orchestration. You can go on and create your own domain and look at it based on the questionnaire I have created as a part of my model, or based on the questionnaire provided by CISA or Palo Alto or Microsoft. You look at it, which maturity can give you a bit of a highlight. Or I would say, you might have to read different books as well. So based on my research, this is my book, which I wrote it. Most recently, there's another book which was released called Project Zero Trust. Good book. It is more from the implementation point of view. Or there's a first book which was released, was on Zero Trust security by a guy called Jason Garbis. Very technical book, talking a lot about architecture. So depending upon that, you can read more than one book, whichever you like, you follow. Mine is very strategic approach, talking about the project planning and everything on that. But it's completely up to you which model you want to define, which model is good or bad. I have my own opinion, but sometimes you need to take your own call in this space, right? What are the main weaknesses of a Zero Trust architecture? Okay, good question. While I find out I have a slide on that. Let me see if any other question has been popped up. How can we keep company productive in implementing high-level Zero Trust? Yes, you can do that. I will answer that. Most maturity model focus on technology, but not process and organization. How can we this gap? So yeah, let me tackle that question from Amir. So most of the maturity model focus on technology, but not the process. Yep. So process part, you may follow a framework, 27001 or NIST cybersecurity framework, which will give you a high level gap in terms of if I have any kind of process gap. However, process gaps are also fulfilled as a part of your zero trust approach. So governance, risk, and compliance can be matured when you start implementing the various domains or various artifacts as a part of your zero trust. So yes, process is covered. It will automatically improve your process, or you may have to redefine your process. One good example I can very well think about is password reset process. In the case of a normal world, for any password reset, you need to send a call the help desk, fill up a form, all those things needs to be done, and somebody will open a ticket for you and then reset the password and give you. But in case of a zero trust world, the entire process of resetting the password is completely automated. You have to use something like self-service password reset technology, which is actually available today from Microsoft and many other, right? If you're using Microsoft technology. So you go to a website called self-service password portal, you enter your username, you have your second factor authenticator here, it will send you a code. Once you enter that, validate that it's you who is trying to do it, and then it will prompt you to enter your new password and reset the password automatically. So there is no human being required. That means you are improving your process, right? Getting it, Amir? Make sense? How the process can be improved or matured as a part of your zero trust architecture. Of course, you are using technology, but actually you improve your process. You reduce the time of password reset. You improve the productivity. You reduce the cost. You don't need any more human in that space as well, right? Good. How can we keep a company productive and with implementing a high level zero trust? So the example I gave you about ransomware, right? So you're not disturbing. As I said, zero trust is not a big bang approach. You can't take, let's start and implement MFA for all 10,000 employees I have in my company. No, it's going to be a disaster. Let's start with an IT department because they are the most friendliest folks. I have 150 people in my IT department. I will target them first. Let's see what complaint I receive because they will give me a candid feedback and I can fix it and then roll out to my other department. So you don't want to impact the productivity. You want to help them. Also, another way of thinking of being productive which is what Microsoft did in their case. When Microsoft decided to implement a zero trust architecture framework 4 years back, they did a log collection from VPN. So my laptop have a VPN, right? So every time I want to access any of my corporate application from home, I have to fire up a VPN. So what Microsoft did is they captured the log of VPN to check how many users are using VPN to access which application. That means that application is a number one priority. We need to move that application quickly on the cloud so we can reduce the infrastructure cost on the VPN and speed also is increased. So using that creative way of identifying which application, which user, they moved those 120 applications first into the cloud so they can eliminate thousands of VPN servers because we are 250,000 employees worldwide. And imagine all of them, if targets start using VPN to connect application, it's a big overhead, right? So you have to be creative and identify on that. Okay, so that is also done, Ibrahim. I hope you're happy with the answer. If not, feel free to ask me one more time and I can give more examples. What are the main weaknesses of a zero trust? Well, I have a slide on that. So here you go. These are the top 4 challenges or the weakness in case of a zero trust, which as a practitioner, when I talk to customers, these are the 4 things always people ask. That I have more than one kind of vendor. We are not Microsoft shopper. We are not Cisco shopper. We are not Palo Alto. What I'm going to do, right? Where do I begin? So I gave you example. How do you start collecting all the entire team member from HR, legal, IT, security, business, all have to come together, right? Second biggest challenge I get is what is the first step in initiating a zero trust? So first step is a business buy-in. Do you really need a zero trust? That's the first question. If you need it, which area are you going to tackle? In my opinion, you should start from the risk management point of view. Finding the right solution. So another question I had was, what if I have challenge with the integration? What can I do with that? Because if I have one particular from so-and-so technology vendor, it doesn't work with Microsoft Active Directory or Azure Active Directory. What am I going to do? Then you have to think about an approach where you can have the solution which is cloud native, which has the integration available, which have a capacity to create an API, so you can connect both of them to collect the signal. Because if you're not able to collect the signals, you will not be able to block them using your conditional access engine. Lack of budget, organization-wide buying, right? How to advocate them. That's where you need to bring everyone together. Maybe IT department or a business have a different plan. You are a new security guy, new architecture. You are very passionate about zero trust. I want to do zero trust in the company. But company will say, hold on. For me, my number one priority is to go live with this new LMS system in my university, which I need to launch, because without that, I cannot onboard students. But you are saying ransomware is a number one priority, which you are going to tackle first. Always go with the business, because they will support you in the journey. For them, LMS is a number one priority. I would focus on providing LMS security better, using zero trust architecture, making sure it is on the cloud and all the users are having a multi-factor authentications, and all the students are able to log in from 4 or 5 countries, or where the country they are logging in, or maybe from Saudi Arabia. I'll think about improving the security for LMS first, and then focus on ransomware as the number 2 priority. So always have support from the top management, so they will help you with your budgeting and buying and whatnot, right? In many organizations, there would be different kind of mobile, how zero trust can handle. So yeah, I covered that part a little bit in terms of having a different technology vendor in my organization, more than one kind of product in my environment. So the good practice or the approach is having a best of platform, or your technology which you're using should be a cloud native technology. You can't think of an antivirus which is a signature base and want to go on a zero trust, because signature based antivirus will not be able to protect your environment in a zero trust architecture framework. You need to have a behavior based antivirus or EDR, which is modern and blocks the threat based on behavior. So sometimes you have to upgrade your technology, improve your process, give you an example of a shared service password, or reskill your people as well. That also is required, because if you recall, operating in an on-prem environment, you will need network engineers and firewall engineers. However, in a zero trust architecture, the firewall people and the network people are very less, because everything is on the cloud. So you will need to upskill those people to understand how network works on the cloud. Similarly, your IPS and IDS, they don't have any role in zero trust. However, you need to think of a DLP solutions based on behavior. So those kind of things will have to be changed and improved upon when you are moving into a zero trust. You need to advance on that space. One good question came from data protection perspective. How zero trust component can I protect unstructured data using zero trust methodology? Okay, good question. I have a data segment in my slide. So how can I improve my data security? Yep. While I find the slide, of course. So very first step I always recommend when it comes to the data part is, right, you need to know the sensitivity and the criticality of your data. If you don't have a process in place to identify what data you are using in your company, data which is stored on your phone, on your SharePoint online, on your Dropbox, OneDrive, in your laptop, in your database, structured, unstructured, without identifying, you cannot protect. So go back to the basic life cycle of a data, right? Identifying the data, classifying the data, protecting the data, archiving the data, and destroying the data. Remember this life cycle of a data life cycle? So for that, you need to know. First step is identify. Second thing is then classify. Do you have your classification scheme in place? Are you doing classification manually or automated way, right? Once you classify it, how are you protecting it? If it is a confidential, Do you have the encryption technology in place which can protect structured and unstructured data on your hard disk, on your database, data at rest, data in use, data in transit? Very basic stuff. You all know about it, right? What are you doing in that space? See, for example, I'm showing the example here, auto classification, right? Do you have a mechanism based on machine learning? Microsoft has this technology. I'm not selling Microsoft technology. There are many other technology which can learn from the type of data you have and automatically classify and apply the protection as well on top of it. So you need to have that kind of mechanism so that you can auto classify it and then protect the data in that case as well. It's a huge topic in itself, but just a very high level. These are the basic requirement in case you want to implement data component in your zero trust architecture. Yep. Question? How are we going? Dr. Nasro, any new question? Otherwise, I will look at the list which was sent.
No, all the questions we had, you have answered them. If there's any live question from the attendees.
So, yeah, one question was, based on your experience, what are the top security risks of a digitizing of all business process? Well, if you have noticed my CV or my LinkedIn profile, I used to be the Chief Information Security Officer for Hukuma Electronia of Bahrain. I used to live in Bahrain and electronic government of Bahrain, right? So I was the CISO for the entire country of Bahrain. So electronic government, they digitize 300 manual processes into a digital format, right? Because they wanted to allow all the citizens and residents to access the services electronically, at the same time also in a secure manner, so they can improve the speed of the service, they can provide better services, better quality of service and whatnot. I'm sure Saudi Arabia was also at that point of time. I'm talking about 12 years back. I was the CISO of electronic government of Bahrain. So a lot of these business processes which they had was digitized. And of course, every digitization will bring its own set of risk. During those days, IoT, OT was not very much not very risky part of it. However, there were the e.gov.bh or Bahrain.bh, which was the main portal where they had all the services, was constantly attacked from the web. All the SQL injection, all the DDoS attack, all those kind of attack used to be only on the website. People were not targeted. But now, because of a zero trust architecture, because of people working from home, of course, business application are targeted, but more than that, to target business process application, human being and identities are #1 target, because it's much more easier to target human who is working from home in an unsecure Wi-Fi network without any firewall and all those technology in place, and not very focused, because at home you do many things, right? So it is much easier to target human beings and identities than targeting those companies. So once they get hold of an identity, they can do all the damage. We saw the example of Colonial Pipeline last year. We saw the example of SolarWind previous year back as well. We saw the example from Australia, like Optus and Medibank. All these are targeted to a human who clicked a malicious link and the software was downloaded, or they exploit one of the online system to get into a particular laptop, and from there they targeted the cloud, right? I know it's not about security, cybersecurity mesh architecture, but can you please highlight the main difference between CSMA and ZTA? Another question by Amir. Cloud security, okay, cybersecurity mesh architecture. So cybersecurity mesh architecture is a little bit contradicting than the zero trust approach. So what zero trust approach is saying that you have, if you want to successfully implement zero trust or have a better outcome of your zero trust project, you have to adopt a best of platform approach. Go with a single vendor which has the maximum capability to protect your estate from data, from application, from network, from cloud, from everything. However, in case of a cloud cybersecurity mesh architecture, what they are saying that not every company today is in position to eliminate all the investment what they have made in the technology. They have to use whatever they have today to continue operating, right? You may have invested in antivirus, however, it is not very advanced, but still does the job. Just because you want to go zero trust doesn't mean that you have to eliminate on that. So cybersecurity mesh architecture, what they're saying, you can create a mesh of similar collection of technology and have a separate dashboard or separate technology. For example, on the network side, then you have a dashboard which will integrate with various other systems as well. So you are technically creating a various mesh on top of each other. Same application, data, identity, and whatnot, because you have more than one variety of identity. You are using Microsoft Azure AD, you are using Microsoft on-prem AD, you have Okta, you have Ping, you have SailPoint. Depending upon how many authentication mechanism you allow in your company. There are many companies who has more than one authenticator, right? Because for the front line, they use SailPoint. For the in-house employee, they use Azure AD or on-prem AD. So in case of that, you have to create a mesh of all this technology for various identity and have a separate product which would integrate with 5 different things and give you visibility what's happening across the estate, right? So that's the main difference. There are a lot more to be discussed. Maybe some other time I will come and present to you on detail on 1 hour on all the component of mesh architecture and share with you on that, right? That was just a high level overview. Okay. Yes. Any other burning question? There are a lot of things I have for you, but let's see. Let's go in a Q&A. I have many other information to share, but depending upon the question, we can navigate. More questions?
Abbas, I think you have answered all the questions. I don't see any questions coming. So maybe if anyone wants to ask live questions, we can unmute.
Live mics. Question asked. I will find program approach. Of course, I really like this particular book written by my friend George Finney, which gives you a detailed project Zero Trust. But what I'm sharing you on the screen is about a Zero Trust program approach through a Scrum methodology provided by Microsoft. So how to start, need to do a discovery, need to do the sprint planning, and then you have various epics which can go on depending upon how you run it. So this is one methodology. I also have a detailed methodology in my book as well. I have defined each and every component in terms of project planning. That also you can look at it. But yeah, Scrum framework, you can use it for Zero Trust. That's something I want to highlight to you. Anything interesting slide to share with you while you think of any other question for me? Okay, one good thing. How can I learn more about Zero Trust? Any qualifications or any kind of training available, right? So a lot of vendors, including Microsoft, they have their own training material or approach on Zero Trust. However, if you want to study a vendor neutral one, so as you can notice in my first slide, the Zero Trust strategies. This is the training from Forrester, which you can do it. It's, I think, couple of weeks of online training you can join, and they will be able to you will learn a lot. This is the vendor neutral, because Forrester is the one who started the Zero Trust by a guy called Chase Cunningham, who is, if you have noticed my book, the person written at the back, he's the one who wrote the first paper on a Zero Trust. He's the one who created. So yeah, that's a beautiful training. I did it a few years back. I really enjoyed it. Another good training which is coming up now is from Cloud Security Alliance. So if you go Cloud Security Alliance, you'll find another good training. So Cloud Security Alliance. They are working on creating a new training for Zero Trust architecture. So it is going to launch very soon. They have divided into foundation and many other areas. So yeah, they have quite a few courses which you can attend and learn. I'm one of the contributors. I wrote a lot of content. I created the question answer also for them. So you can really, I like it, absolutely. So this is another one training, again, vendor neutral, vendor independent, available from them as well. So yeah, introduction, software defined perimeter, planning, architecture, a lot of things they have. That's another thing you can look for it. I hope you're able to see the screen, right? You can? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, do that. Yeah, I think all the questions have been answered. What are the technical and strategic plan you need to have for implementing zero trust without impacting a day of operation? So Sunil, Roy, I covered a little bit on that topic. So if you want to look at it, the rapid approach, I will show you one of the rapid approach of doing zero trust. You can think from that point of view as well. So Microsoft have a rapid approach plan. I will show you one slide. It's called Microsoft recommended zero trust priority, right? So always align, it's like a burger bun, align segmentation strategy with your team, then build your modern perimeter identity base. So Microsoft advocates, I remember initially I talked about there are two approaches of zero trust, identity centric approach and a network centric approach. So Microsoft, Forrester, OpenView, NIST, they all talk about identity-based approach. So Microsoft also recommends you should think about creating a modern identity-based perimeter. That's the best way, according to Microsoft and according to NIST and Open Group, to start your zero trust approach into that fashion. So have that as a second step. And the third, you focus on refining your segmentation strategy. I gave an example of a ransomware, right? How can I mitigate myself against ransomware? One of the most important thing in a zero trust framework for ransomware is your network segmentation. Do you know why? Why? Because if you have been attacked with a ransomware, if you have done the proper network segmentation, you will be able to isolate that attack into that particular device or a segment rather than impacting the whole company. So your network segmentation and network perimeter strategy is a very, very important on zero trust, especially if the ransomware is one of your threat, or if you're running a company like a Saudi Aramco, because they have lots of IoT, OT, SCADA, ICS systems. If you do the right micro segmentation approach in a company like Aramco, you will be able to isolate the critical infrastructure separate and focus on the other area. So if IT is targeted, it won't be impacting any of your critical infrastructure. Just one example. Yeah, network segmentation is very important. So this is a rapid plan for Microsoft as such. I hope it helps in it. Any last couple of questions?
I think the time is up. Maybe there are no more questions. Some students have classes, some other commitments. So those who are interested, they can ask questions. The rest of the participants, they can leave with thanks, and we will send you certificates through email in a few days' time.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Nasro, once you have the list of all the people who has attended, I want to do a lucky draw for a free copy of my book.
That will be great. Yeah, I can provide you the email, the names and emails of the.
Yeah, so give me the name or email address. I will randomly pick 1 or 2 or 3 users and then email them for their address, and I will send them the copy of my zero trust book.
Great, yeah, much appreciated. Thank you very much. Now I invite my dean, Dr. Abdullah, if he's around, he would thank the audience and the presenter. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Professor Nasser. And thanks to Professor Abbas. I'm trying to enable my camera, but maybe zero trust controlling my camera. But I would like to thank you for the very rich session. I believe we benefit all from all the concept, all the landscape of zero trust. That's I believe.
Sure. most welcome. Anyone who is doing a research on Zero Trust, you want to connect with me, please reach out to me on my email address. Take my detail from Dr. Nasro or Dr. Abdullah. They will share my contact detail. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to discuss separate 1, 2 hours, doesn't matter how many hours. I can even tell you what are the new research area in Zero Trust, which is you should focus on, apart from one which has been currently done on dynamic risk engine. So I can share a lot of detail in that space as well. So yeah, let's continue the discussion.
Yes, thanks, Professor. Now I'm back again with my camera. So on behalf of the Saudi Aramco Cybersecurity Chair and the College of Computer Science at Imam Mohammed Faisal University, I would like to thank you, Professor Abbas, for sharing your time, your knowledge with all our audience. I would like also to extend the thanks to the audience for very rich questions.
Excellent questions.
Yeah, I believe also make the session more interactive and more enjoyable, with the full of knowledge and going more deep in the Zero Trust. I believe that hopefully a session will open more doors of collaborations with Dr. Abbas and Zero Trust, and knowing more about the topic and doing more research as well. And I recommend everyone also to have a copy of Dr. Abbas' book. We have added his book to our college library, and I believe we'll try to get more. We're working in the translation of that book with his permission, inshallah, with arranging.
Yes, we should do that. We should do that.
I believe that will enrich the Arabic library with very interesting topic. So thanks a lot, Professor Abbas. Hopefully that will be will open more collaboration with you in different directions in the future, inshallah. So thank you, everyone, and looking forward for more to join us in more sessions. Thanks, Professor Nasser, for the excellent organization and moderation of this session, and see you all in the near future. Thank you.
Shukran. As-salama.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, for those who are interested in the lecture, who missed some parts, we will upload the recording on our YouTube channel. I have added the link in the chat window. So anytime you want to have a look, the recordings will be available on our YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone.